Hi, I'm Doris Koplin, and I'm the author of 2 cookbooks. The most recent one is The Quick Cook, which I wrote in an effort to make it easy to get dinner on the table in a hurry. Today's lifestyle tells us that we're all busy, yet I think it's a wonderful idea to be able to sit down to dinner with your families every day if possible. The Quick Cook helps you to do that. The recipes are all quick and easy and yield tasty results. The earlier cookbook that I wrote is called Cooking Drives Me Nuts, but I love it. I cooked from the time I was 8 years old. This book was written around the time that Jimmy Carter was president, when peanuts were popular, and the central character, if you will, is a peanut lady who's all dressed up in high heels and a tiny little apron and a chef's hat. At this point in time, I interviewed chefs in restaurants, so there are some recipes from restaurants in the book as well as some of my own. Writing is fun, cooking is even more fun. Today I'm preparing strudel, which is a lovely pastry. I think of it as being in the cookie family. It isn't the strudel as originated as a stretched dough. This is the shorter version of that type of dough. The stretched dough is made with oil. This dough is going to be prepared with butter, which really makes it taste good. Strudel probably originated in Central Europe, Austria, Germany, Hungary, those countries, and is truly delicious. It's a lovely delicacy as a sweet. Now, the recipe calls for 2 cups of flour, which I'm measuring out with the scoop and swoop method. I've scooped a cup and I've leveled it off with my finger. It's an easy way, and I'm going to prepare it in the food processor. So the flour goes into the work bowl of the food processor, 2 cups. Like so. The stick and a half of butter into small pieces so that they'll combine a bit more easily than if you had put in the whole stick and the half stick. So just with a knife, I'm cutting down into tablespoon-sized pieces or so. And the preparation of the dough is an important part of the preparation of the strudel. So I'm adding the pieces to the food processor, to the work bowl, into the flour, and we're going to first put the top on, put the lid on. Food processor is a very important piece of equipment in the kitchen. I'm going to pulse the butter into the flour, but one important thing that you want to remember is not to over-process. So 3 or 4 or 5 turns will cut the butter down into, I'd say, marble-sized pieces, or maybe the size of dried peas or lentils. So you can see the small pieces of butter. And they're important to the baking of the pastry. I'm going to then add the sour cream. And this is a cup of sour cream, or a half pint. A half pint is equal to a cup. And then we'll put it all together, again, by processing very quickly. Not over-processing at all. When you see it begin to come together as a dough, you want to stop processing. Now the dough has come together. You can see it looks like a rough batch of dough, and I'm going to turn it out onto film to wrap it. Treat the blade or the food processor with respect because it's very sharp. And here's all the dough in its rough form. But we're going to fix that. We're going to smooth it out. press it together, like so. Using flour on your hands to make it easier to handle, you simply press it together and shape it into a sort of a rectangle. Since the strips that we're going to cut later are going to be rolled out into a rectangular shape, it's a nice idea to press this dough into a rectangle so you're sort of ahead of the game to start with. So you can still see the little pieces of butter, and that's highly desirable. I don't know if you can get that on camera or not, but these small pieces will assure the fact that you will have flakiness in the dough once it's baked. What happens when you bake the strudel is that these small pieces of butter are absorbed by the flour into the dough in a sort of a slurping-like motion, and that creates flakiness around the pieces of butter. So that's highly desirable. And here are pieces that you can still see even though you process it down. So we're going to wrap the dough, and the dough needs to be refrigerated for at least an hour. To get ahead of the game, you can even prepare the dough a day ahead and just let it rest in the refrigerator overnight. So here it is. That's the dough, ready to go, ready to be chilled and then to be rolled out. This is a batch of dough for the pastry, for the strudel. It's strudel dough that's been made with flour, all-purpose flour, sour cream, and butter. And I'm cutting the dough into 4 sections because you'll get 4 strips of strudel that you'll later bake from one batch of the dough. So here's one section, and I'm rolling it out onto floured parchment paper on the board to make it easier to transport the finished roll onto a baking pan. So with a floured pen, rolling pin, we're going to roll the strip into a rectangle about 12 or 13 inches long and maybe 6 to 7 inches wide, like so. It's a soft dough, it's workable, and when you prepare the dough, you'll see that there are little pieces of butter that remain. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but that's desirable. And the reason for that is what happens when you bake a pastry is that the flour absorbs the butter in a sort of a slurping-like motion and creates little flakes of pastry around what was the butter. So to have the little pieces of butter remain is very important. So your rectangle doesn't have to be exactly even, just so it's in a rectangular shape because you're going to roll it anyway. Sometimes it gets a little messy, sometimes it's a little hard to handle, but you work with it because it's worth it. So here is something of a rectangle, a bit irregular, but it's not going to matter. Then, when you've gotten to the rectangle, you want to spread it with apricot preserves. And the preserves could be any flavor that's your favorite. Could be strawberry, could be raspberry, any flavor at all. So you want to spread, leaving room on both sides, all sides, for folding. So, done that. And then you want to add pecans. The nuts can be any nuts. Could be almonds, could be walnuts if you like. I particularly like the pecans. Raisins, could be dark raisins, could be golden raisins, could be other fruit if you like, but I particularly like the nuts and the raisins. Some people use coconut. Think creatively. Then we're going to add cinnamon and sugar. We've mixed maybe a half a cup of sugar with close to a tablespoon of cinnamon for flavor. So with a spoon, add the cinnamon, close to a tablespoonful. And then with a board scraper, you want to turn the sides of the dough over first onto the filling, the short sides. And then from the long side, begin to roll up like so. And because you've used the parchment paper, use it as an aid to roll the dough over the filling. If it sticks, that's not a problem. Just play with it. And keep rolling until you get to the end and you've covered it all. Remember, there was flour on the bottom of the roll on the parchment, so that helps. But you've got a little bit of stickiness, but that's okay. Now, one little a little trick to move the dough, the roll over to the baking pan is simply to cut the strip, the paper, into a strip. And then it makes it easy just to lift it and place it on the baking pan, like so. And since you know you're going to get 4 rolls from the batch of dough, you want to leave room for the other 3. So place the strip near the edge of the pan. Then it's ready to bake. And while you're rolling the other 3 strips, you want to be sure to refrigerate the ones that you've already made. That keeps them cold, preserves those little bits of butter. Okay? Okay. I'm moving the finished roll over to the baking pan, remembering to place the roll seam side down, as I had done when it was rolled. And that should prevent any seepage of the jelly, of the marmalade, of the apricot preserves onto the pan. But you might get some. Don't let that concern you. So I'm placing it in the middle of the pan. In the interest of time today, we won't prepare all 4 rolls. But remember to refrigerate the finished roll while you're rolling out the other 3. Because you do want to preserve those little butter bits. So I'm going to go ahead and put the finished roll ready for the oven into the oven, where it will bake for 45 to 50 minutes at 350 degrees. Be sure to preheat your oven first. Our strudel has baked for 45 to 50 minutes and is done. So we're going to remove it from the oven and move it over to the board where we can take the strudel off the pan. And I'll do it thusly. The paper is not hot, so I'll pick up the strudel from the parchment and move it over to the board so I can cut it. And it comes off the paper, off of the parchment fairly easily, but if it sticks, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be cut with a with a serrated knife, like so. And you want to cut into pieces approximately an inch or so wide, like so. And you can see they come right off the paper. So that's our finished product. Strudel is considered to be something of a delicacy. Originated probably in Central Europe a long time ago, in Austria or Hungary, Germany, in that area. And I always place it in the cookie family. If I'm doing a cookie tray or cookie platter for a happy occasion, I like to include strudel along with other cookies, other sweets. So here we have the finished product, and you can place it on a tray attractively, and nice to serve with ice cream if you like, or all by itself. And if you were to cut it in larger pieces like this, it could be a dessert. So here we are. My husband said that his mother always baked strudel. She was a marvelous baker. And she saved the ends for him because everything else went out as gifts. And he said he was full grown before he knew that they were anything but ends. The presentation of the finished strudel, which has been cut and placed on a platter, could be combined with other cookies, but in this instance, this is just the strudel, which stands alone, stands well on its own. You want to arrange it as attractively as you can. I like a sort of a uniformity about it. And all I can wish you is bon appetit. Enjoy.